In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Gravitas Monster fountain pen. I'll go over the specs, I will do a writing sample, and I'll tell you what I like and don't like about this pen coming up. So this is the Gravitas Monster fountain pen. This was very nicely sent to me by Neil of the Wasted Paper YouTube channel, so thank you very much, Neil. I don't get to keep this pen, it's his pen. And when he asked if I wanted to review it, I asked him, what he thought of the pen, if he thought it was a good pen, because my experience with Gravitas in the past hasn't been super positive. I really struggled with their nibs and then also the price of their pens. I will say this one is different. This is by far the best Gravitas pen I have experienced thus far. Now, recently, Endless Pens has become a authorized dealer for Gravitas in the United States, and that is very good timing because otherwise you would have had to order them from Europe and you would have to pay tariffs on top of them. So I believe this pen in this configuration, which is the anodized aluminum body with optical grade acrylic, goes for 285 euros. In the US, though, Endless Pens does carry this in the black, the silver, and this nice teal finish for $400. So you don't have to worry about tariffs or anything like that, and you can get the pen relatively quickly. Now, Gravitas does make a version in titanium with an Ultim, like a relatively translucent Ultim body. I will say that is the coolest looking version of this pen and probably the one I would personally go for. I don't see that at Endless Pens yet. The retail price for that pen is 390 euros. So let's talk about this pen. In terms of the design, it has flat tops, so it'll stand on the desk. Quite sharp, actually, on the ends there. There's no bevel or anything. We have a bead blasted anodized aluminum finish, which has some nice haptic, nice tactile feedback to it. Design-wise, I will say I'm not a huge fan of the look of the cap. Similar to like the Autohoot Design 7, I just feel like the cap to body ratio isn't good. It's almost, I think I measured this is like 74 millimeters versus 72 millimeters, so it's almost, split in half. And visually, I don't really like that. Also, the cap, flares out quite a bit here in the middle before tapering towards the top of the cap. It just kind of has a bulbous look to it. As a comparison, here's a Cusado Kakari, I think it is, and this to me has a better cap to body ratio. This is just a weird personal preference of mine. Looking at the pen a bit more closely here, we have this huge ink chamber here, and this pen holds 7 milliliters of ink. I don't really know of another pen that holds that much ink. I mean, there probably are ones out there. I just am not aware of them. A typical piston filler, I think, holds like 1.5 to 2 milliliters of ink. So this has got a monster ink capacity, which I think is why it's called the Monster. Now, one detail that I do really like on this pen is if we look at this trim ring here, it says, "Beware, for I am fearless and therefore powerful." Neat little kind of hidden detail there. And then the pen, I believe, is also numbered. So this is number 30305. So I like that this is, I think, individually numbered, and you got that just little, very subtle detail there. Nice thing to see there. Now, in terms of uncapping this, I don't know how many turns this is going to be. It's going to be kind of hard to tell because there's no clip. Well, I'm not really going to figure that out. I think it's about 1 turn-ish to get it off. Now, uncapped, I think that this pen... Oh, and I'm actually noticing a detail I've never noticed before, because it is kind of faint. This is the Gravitas logo, like very faintly debossed into the cap. It also doesn't look, I don't know, does that look centered to you? Maybe it is. It probably is. Yeah, just kind of a subtle detail there. I do think it could be a bit more, strongly uh, engraved or however they do that. Didn't notice that until just now. Interesting. And I've been using this pen for a little while, so that's funny. Anyway, here it is uncapped, and I think it looks much better uncapped. This, visually, I think looks pretty nice. We have our threading here. All of this is anodized aluminum. Now, on the grip section, there is sort of this like very light ribbing to it, which does help with the grip. I do still kind of find the grip section to be a little bit slippery, so I think maybe like deeper grooves would help because it is. I was surprised it was a little bit slippery. Now we have a number 8 nib here with the decoration is all laser engraving. We have the Gravitas logo and a B there. Nice looking steel nib. Don't know who makes these, but this is a nice writing one. And we have what I believe is ebonite feed. Very pretty, shapely ebonite feed. Really like the look of that. Very, very nice. They call this the Kraken filling system. It's supposed to be like some kind of medical valve. Basically, it's just a vacuum filler. So you would unscrew the blind cap here, pull the plunger, pull the rod sort of out like this, stick it in the ink bottle, and then close it, pretty quickly to create this. There's like an air bubble in here where like the chamber gets a little bit wider, so you'll get air kind of pressure that will pull the ink out of the bottle into the pen. Now, this Kraken filling system has like a more sophisticated seal that requires less lubrication, so I think this should be more durable. You should have longer intervals before there's, some kind of failure rate. Also, the grip section unscrews. So servicing this is going to be very easy. So this pen does post, per my understanding, but I forgot to ask Neil if I can post it, so I'm not going to do that. This is a big pen, though. I mean, even, without a cap on the back, I feel the weight back here. Now, it doesn't want to like fall backwards out of my hand, but I'm very aware that there is quite a bit of weight back here. So I personally wouldn't post this, but I do know it can be done. So let's do some measurements. Now, uncapped, we're looking at about 145, and then capped, we are looking at about 146. So pretty tight fit in the cap there. Now the grip section, I'll go for the narrowest point, and then we can go to the widest point. 12.4. Wow, really? I'm surprised by that. Okay. And 13.7 at the widest before you get to the threading. I find this, and the more I use these number 8 size pens, the less I tend to get along with them. The Mont Blanc 149 is an exception, as is the Delta Dolce Vita oversized, because those have really fat grip sections. For me, I wish this was a number 6 nib, and then I would find it more comfortable. But if you have bigger hands, it may not be much of an issue. And I wouldn't say that this pen is uncomfortable. I just think if it had a smaller nib, I would find it more comfortable. Or if it had a fatter grip section, I would find it more comfortable. So, and this has like probably a half fill in here. This is 30 grams, and then with the cap, 44.5. So it's a hefty pen, and you do feel the metal, especially in the back of the pen. So let's do some comparisons. So here it is with a 149, just so we can see the differences in the grip section here. The 149 does have a fatter grip section, which I think makes it more comfortable. I also think that the tip isn't quite as long. Let me grab another 149. Now I'm curious as to why. Yeah, so I mean, this is a bigger nib, and it's a longer nib than both of these Mont Blanc ones. So just that combination of the slightly thinner grip section, and it's not a thin grip section, but compared to the 149, it is a little bit thinner, and then just the longer length of the nib, for me, it starts becoming less comfortable. But, you got bigger hands, this might be perfect. Now, put the cap back on here. Let's compare it to some other pens. So, again, we've got 149 here. We've got a TWSBI Eco and a Lummi 2000. So this is a big oversized pen with a massive ink capacity. For the writing sample, I'm going to be using a Papermine Tomoe River hardcover notebook. These notebooks are excellent with fountain pens, and for Blake's broadcast viewers and subscribers, you can get 10% off with code BB10 at checkout. This is the Gravitas Monster with a broad, and this is Parker Washable Blue. We can do some fast writing. No performance issues here. Out of all the Gravitas pens I've tried, this definitely has the best nib, and it is a nice nib. There's a touch of softness to it, so you can actually get a little bit of line variation. I wouldn't push on it too much being steel, but with a little light pressure, you do get some line variation, which I think is nice. Being a broad nib, very smooth. I think the ebonite feed helps give this pen, a nice ink flow to it. This Parker Washable Blue isn't a particularly wet ink, but the ink flow out of this is very, very nice. Reverse writing, smooth. Yeah, that's not scratchy at all. And you definitely get a difference in the line width. Very happy with the performance of this nib. It's actually quite good, where in the past, the nibs had always been the letdown of any Gravitas pen I've tried, and that's not really the case here. So what are my pros and cons for the Gravitas Monster? Well, I think the big ink capacity is the real reason you would want to buy this pen. 7 milliliters of ink. That is a ton of ink. I do think that the nib is quite nice. It has a nice wet ink flow with a very attractive looking, what I believe to be ebonite feed. And you do get some softness to the nib such that you can have a little bit of line variation without too much pressure. So I really like this nib. I also think it's cool that there's some innovation in the piston or the vacuum filling system called the Kraken filling system. It's supposed to be more reliable, more durable, less time in between, needing to like re-lubricate the seal, which is good. The grip section unscrews from this pen, so easier to clean and easier to service. So in that sense, the design there is very, very good. Now, in terms of cons, I think the biggest issue for me is going to be the looks of this pen. I don't care for the 50-50 split of the cap. Just as a comparison, here's another very generic looking pen. This is a Cusado. But if you notice, the proportion of the cap to the body, I think, is just visually a lot more appealing. I'm also just not a vacuum filler fan. When these things fail, it's going to make a big mess. It's going to be annoying. You do typically have to unscrew the blind cap to get good ink flow, which is also annoying. Although the benefit is if you're flying, I suppose ink won't shoot everywhere. Although I fly with pens all the time, and I don't typically have too many issues with leaks, especially if you keep the pens upright when the plane is going through its pressurization cycle. It's not really a big issue. Now, the other thing I will say is, for me, comfort-wise, the pen wasn't super. I wouldn't say it's like uncomfortable, but it's not the most comfortable pen. The grip section, despite its little ribbing, is kind of slippery, and it's too skinny for me relative to the length of the pen. If this was fatter like a 149 grip section, I think it would have been more comfortable for me, but with the grip section as it is, a number 6 nib I would have found to be more comfortable on this pen. It wouldn't be proportionally as right though, just because this is such a big pen. I also definitely feel all the metal in the back of the pen. It's not going to, fall. It's still going to tilt nib down, but when I'm writing with this, I really do feel that weight in the back. It's not, I don't want it to sound like this is an uncomfortable pen, but it's not the most comfortable pen for me. If you have bigger hands, this might be very comfortable. The other thing we have to talk about is the price. So 285 euros in Europe or $400 in the US. I don't know if there's enough here to justify that. There's a lot of generic looking pens like this. I guess I don't see the $400 here. In titanium with the Ultim, which is my preferred look, it's 385 euros. I don't see those for sale at Endless yet, who is the US distributor. So you can buy them from Europe, but you'll have to pay duty on import, at least as of today, which is November 2025. I just think it's kind of too expensive for what this is. I think there needs to be something more special to justify the price because there are many, cool pens made in Asia, like Asfine, is it the V200? Looks like a copy of a Conid, a P38. Those are similarly made pens for much, much less money. So it's hard to figure out why this should cost $400. Sorry to say that. I like the pen. It's kind of too expensive. It could be a bit better looking. That is what it is. That's pretty much it. Do you guys have this pen? Do you like this pen? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more fountain pen paper and ink videos, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much, and until next time.